You're 50 years in cinema and you're here in London, a city that you know very well, to collect an award. Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, actually, I'm here for the UK Asian Film Festival that is celebrating my 50 years in films. And one of the things they've also arranged for me is to get the Freedom to the City award, which is given by the London Corporation.
I mean, we can talk about your cinema in a moment. As we said, 5 decades in Bollywood, Hindi cinema.
Sounds very daunting.
But it's extraordinary, actually, the journey that you've been on. You've been an icon for women, but also for women's empowerment, and in many ways been ahead of your time when it's come to the issues you've raised, both through your cinema, but in your life as well. Just tell us a little bit more about that and how that journey has been for you.
By a process of osmosis, because my father was a very liberal writer. He was a member of the Communist Party. My mother was a very well-respected theatre actress. She did some films also, but they always believed that art should be used as an instrument of social change. So that was something that was intrinsic to who I was. I took gender justice for granted. I took secularism and a respect for the composite culture of India as a granted. But at one point, after I started work in films, I was so consumed with that I didn't look outside my films. And it's to my father's credit that he didn't push me or didn't express his disappointment, but he waited that the prodigal child will return, and that's what inevitably happened. Because what happens is, when you're an artist, there comes a time when you can no longer treat your work like a 9-to-5 job and say, okay, I inhabit the life of this character, and then I go back to my air-conditioned comfort and not worry about the people that I'm playing. So some of the residue of that stays behind in you and creates a sensitivity and creates an empathy for characters who are marginalized and whom you are playing. And so then it becomes inevitable that you ask the question, why? Why is there injustice? Why is there gender inequality? And given that you're an artist, I hope there is a degree of sensitivity in you. And that's how I got involved, both in my work with slum dwellers in Mumbai and then later with women. I also head an NGO called Mijwan Welfare Society, which works for the empowerment of the woman and the girl child through education, skills training, sports, all of that, which was started by my father. And then I gradually took over from there.
You've dealt with, as you say, all sorts of issues, from child mortality to the issues that the slum dwellers have dealt with, poverty, injustice, but also quite controversial and provocative issues as well, both in your cinema and outside. And as I said, in many ways, you were ahead of your time. How did you deal with that?
You know, I haven't courted controversy, because what happens, particularly when it's to do with cinema, then the baggage of that controversy weighs heavily on the creative product that you have and creates expectations and all kinds of things. But I have always been brought out to speak my mind. And so when I've come across issues which are provocative, it comes just naturally to me that if I feel really strongly about it, then I'll get involved with it. And that's how it's been in films also, and that's how it's been in life.
How have you seen India evolve in the last 50 years in terms of, do you have the sort of freedom to speak your mind today the way that you might have had over the decades?
Well, there is definitely an attempt to muzzle that freedom, but you have to fight back, because that is one of the pillars of democracy. And so the freedom of expression is a very important right. And so you fight it. And you make sure that as an artist, you don't give up on that. That's very important.
Do artists have that responsibility in your view? I mean, you take that responsibility very seriously. You are vocal. Many are not, and as you say, you know, you don't treat it like a 9-to-5 job, but there are those who just think, well, look, I am a performer, but that just because I have a platform doesn't mean I have to speak up about certain issues.
Yes, I agree with that because I think it's a personal choice, and I'm not a guru. I'm not here to say I know all the answers and this is the way it ought to be done, because art is also a means of entertainment. But I think that it's a very important platform that you have, and if you can use it to constructive use, then it's good. Because when I started working with women's issues, I realized that when you do a certain kind of film, the audiences expect you to take that on even in real life. You know, many years ago I did a film called Earth, which was very path-breaking at that time. And after that film was released, I suddenly had women walk into my room, not as fans to star, but in Sisterhood, expecting me to resolve all their marital problems. So that took me completely by surprise. But then gradually that started the movement, and I felt that because I had a voice, I could contribute much more than if I hadn't. And like I told you, it's a natural extension of what my father was doing and what my mother was doing.
What would you tell a young woman growing up in today's India, dealing with so many of the issues, not just in India, but globally that we see?
See, there have always been issues. It's not as if when my parents were right in the middle of the freedom struggle, there weren't issues. So it's never going to be possible that issues will completely disappear. You have to equip yourselves to deal with issues, like you equip yourself during winter to deal with the cold, or during summer. So it's as simple as that. You don't have to huge, great philosophies behind that, but you have to equip yourself, you have to empower yourself, you have to respect what the other is saying. Earlier, I was, I would take immediate positions, and I would say black and white. But as I've grown older, I am interested in the solution, not in staying with the problem. And so I'm willing to walk that extra mile, to just listen to what you are saying. Oftentimes, we close our minds and don't listen. But when I actually listen, then I know how to target that back. And that's why I think it is important not to rush into things because of an immediate reaction, but to learn to have a strategy. Like I told you, life will never be given to you on a platter with everything easily available. You'll have to fight for that.
India is entering another phase of its election. It's the largest democracy on the planet.
Yes.
But do you think it has become democracy by name only now?
No, no. There are a lot of hits on that democracy, but I really respect the electorate of India, because just when you're despairing and you feel everything is going out of your hands, suddenly they show such sagacity in how they vote that to me, it's always a marvel. And even then, the ordinary citizen who feels that I have absolutely no voice, has a right to express that voice every 5 years. And that has to be protected under all circumstances. Democracy has to be preserved, because when you attack democratic rights, then you are attacking a citizen's rights, and that must never be given up. And so you have to equip to deal with that struggle. So you've got a lot. Life comes in packages, You can't just say that, oh, I've got this much and so this will all disappear. It'll be there, and you have to equip yourself to deal with it, because that situation will always stay.
You talked a little bit earlier about attempts to muzzle those who want to speak out. And, you know, in some instances, some would say that India's democracy is being tested. And there are those who say India is heading down an authoritarian path. Is that the feeling you have? Because there are segments and communities in India who have, in different instances, the Muslim community, for example, felt under attack. There are 200 million Muslims in India, and there have been instances where they have felt like their community is somehow under this leadership been ostracized or don't have representation.
But that's happening all over the world. It's not peculiar to India. Muslims are being attacked everywhere across the world. And I think a time has come for some introspection even from the Muslim community to see why is this happening. And I think it has to be a two-pronged attack. You have to, the Muslim citizen, particularly India, has a right and a stake. Because see, look at what the Muslim in India has also achieved. You know, you've had a prime minister, you have had a president, you have Muslims in very powerful positions, you know, whether it is in industry or whether it's in cricket. So then you have to preserve this at all costs, because this is where you're getting it. You're not getting it in other countries where there is no democracy. So that is definitely an ongoing struggle. But I think finally what we have to realize that in India, what are they asking for? They are asking for the same thing that a Hindu is asking for, which is basically roti, kapra or makan. I want food to eat, I want shelter on my head, and I want employment opportunities. Now, we cannot surrender to the fundamentalist voices who really don't want to
On
both sides, yeah, who really don't have any solution to offer for basic rights and how you should get it, and so then fan the flames on religious grounds. That you have to be very, very mindful of, who you choose as your leader and whom you idolize as your leader is the care with which you have to protect yourself.
Do you think that leaders today in India and globally, but namely Prime Minister Modi, politicise religious issues and the fears that people
Oh yes, of course. Religion is used as an instrument for political gain, and especially for electoral game. And so you create communalism as a way of creating villains and heroes, either real or imaginary, and then you pick up all these grievances in the past and want redress in the present times, and that why become a very good instrument for communalization and for political gain. And all leaders over the world do that. All of them do it. So religion is used as an instrument which is not good and has never been good anywhere in the world. It has to be only a part of your identity. It cannot be your whole identity. You know, for instance, time had come when the word Muslim was hurled at me, either as an accusation or with treating me like Dresden China, but which with a sort of thing that I had taken for granted. I had never thought of myself as a Muslim. Because if you ask me who I am, I'm a woman, I'm an Indian, I'm an actor, I'm an activist, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm all of that, and being Muslim is only one part of my identity. It cannot be pulled, all identity is pulled out and only your religion becoming. So you should make sure that you don't fall victim to that that is being flung at you, and especially in India, because see, India's biggest strength is her secularism and her composite culture. That's what I grew up with. Grew up taking that completely for granted. And now when I see that that is being shaken so badly, then of course I have to be part of the process of attempting it.
When you say it's being shaken so badly, are you saying it's going through some kind of, or down a trajectory that is very dangerous at the moment?
I don't know whether that's peculiar only to India or to everywhere. So I wouldn't want to isolate and say that this is happening only in India. Political leaders use religion as a way of dividing people rather than bringing them together. And that can never be good for a country.
Are you hopeful for India's future?
I'm an optimist by nature. I'm just an optimist by nature, and I always think of the best to come and that it will. I'm, very proud of my country. I love the fact that I am an Indian, and I'm very, very proud of my country. And if you tell me, would I like to live anywhere in the world? Not a chance, and not also in India, but in Mumbai. So when I'm in Mumbai, I'm grumbling about the traffic and I'm grumbling about the pollution, and then I'm out for 10 days and I say, where's my pollution? Where's my noise? And I just get addicted. You have to get addicted to Mumbai.
And, as we said, you've done 50 years in cinema, 5 decades. What do the next few decades look like, and what sort of issues would you like to tackle and deal with?
More of the same. People keep saying that, okay, so now you've achieved it. Of course you haven't achieved it. You've not even reached the rock bottom of what you want to attempt. And in any case, in life, I don't want much, I just want more.
Shabana Azmi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.